If you can hear this, then the grid coughed once and decided not to die yet. Stay with me. This is Colin Ward out of a concrete room 2 floors below a bank in Bangor, Maine. The clock on the wall says 6:41 a.m., Monday, and the small red hand is shaking like it's scared. Outside it's gray and cold, the kind of wet cold that gets inside your sleeves. The last weather report I trusted said 46 degrees Fahrenheit with a slow wind off the river, east to west, carrying a faint hiss. I can't see the river now, but I can picture it, flat and dark and holding whatever ash that wind brings. You're tuned to what used to be WBDR 88.7 FM, relayed to AM 820 KHZ when the FM antenna freezes up, and to shortwave 7.490 MHZ when the night carries better than the day. If you catch static, try the other two. If you only get half of me, write it down anyway. Half a warning is better than silence. It started like a rumor that was rude to repeat. A call from a stringer near Loring saying the practice scramble wasn't a practice. A text from a tower tech in New Hampshire saying flight paths looked like a red cross-hatched map, the way weather maps turn angry. At first, I thought it was the usual ugly theater. Rattling swords on the far side of the world so people here would argue about poles and numbers. Then, the strange clicks came down the line, the little bites on the phone that tell you someone else is listening, and the old ham down on Kenduskeag Stream said he saw a sky that looked like a bruise. He also said the ionosphere was acting like a trampoline. Signals bounced and warped. You could hear Oklahoma where you should hear New Brunswick, and you could hear a kid reading bedtime stories on a pirate frequency that usually played old rock. That was the first odd thing that felt like a finger tapping my shoulder. By the second night, the outages walked north like slow feet in snow. Portland went first, then Augusta, then the tiny towns nobody writes songs about. It wasn't just the lights. It was the pumps that hummed in basements, the card readers at gas stations, automatic doors at clinics, the machines that look like sleepy whales and keep a quiet beat on a hospital floor. When the pumps died, people found out that his house on the hill with a view couldn't draw water from a dead well, and the guy with the fence of solar panels learned the panels don't matter if the inverter cooks and the batteries sulk at 20%. The grid workers I trust said the lines were fine, the transformers were fine, but the heartbeat behind them was gone, like a drummer who walked off stage. That wasn't a storm. That was someone closing a hand around a throat. Then came the messages that were not messages. Government feeds with blank space where words should be. A crawler on one channel that just said, "Maintain readiness," over and over. The emergency alert headers arrived with the right tones and the wrong locations, naming counties that don't touch ours, warning of threats that didn't match the sky over Penobscot. It felt like someone knocking on your door with your mother's voice and your father's hat. Close enough to chill you, wrong enough to freeze you in place. I have a list in front of me. People I know. People who talk plain and don't scare easy. First, a nurse from St. Joseph's who said the supply truck promised at dawn never came, and the hospital made a game of trading for saline with a dentist who had a secret stash. Second, a firefighter who said they were told not to go into certain blocks because of radiological anomalies, which is a mouthful when you've got smoke in your nose. He said the Geiger thing they clipped to their shirts ticked high and then went lazy, like it got bored, or its mouth went dry. Third, a guard from the base up at Bangor International who said cargo planes came in without lights and left with less weight. No one said where they were going. The guard also said he heard a voice on a guarded radio talk about plume modeling, and that's a phrase that makes me swallow twice. I promise to keep it simple. Here's what the insiders think, and I'll use small words. Military. They think the first punches were clean and mean, hitting eyes and ears, not hearts, blinding before breaking. They say big pieces fell near old targets, the coast near Portsmouth, the shipyards that build big metal bones for the sea, the air base that feeds long-range birds. They say some birds were in the air before the punches hit the ground. Science folks. They think the sky is messy with dust and small hot pieces you don't want on your coat, and they say the upper sky is thin night sick. HF bands skip weird. FM goes farther at dusk. GPS drifts a hair like a drunk trying to walk a straight line. Politicians, or the aides who still answer their phones, they say, in coded ways, that we are to be calm, and that help is rolling from the west as assets allow. That line smells like a broken promise. It smells like you're on your own for now. You want proof something is wrong? Listen to the way empty sounds. I've stood out in the street at noon and heard no leaf blowers, no trucks backing up, no far dog, no small plane dragging a new banner for a car lot. Only a thin wind and an odd tremor from the south, like someone is dragging a steel desk across the world. If you're in a city and you still hear horns, that's a different kind of warning. People are angry when they're scared. It started here with a line outside the small grocery by the river. 1 hour calm, next hour sharp words, then one guy with a bat, then the owner with a shotgun he never thought he'd have to hold. The bank put up a paper sign that said, "Systems unavailable." In smaller type, "No cash." That's when an old woman sat down on the steps and cried because she had a note in her hand she wanted to pay, and thought not paying made her a bad person. I told her nobody is a bad person for being stuck inside a broken machine. I have 2 live lines right now if the relay holds. If you call and I don't pick up, try again. If you call and I pick up and it drops, don't hang up. Sometimes the wire finds its way back. Line 1, you're on. Tell me your name and your city. Samir from Lewiston. The voice is young and tight, like a string pulled too far. I was at the mill when the sirens went off. Not fire. The other kind. The war kind. We never heard them in real life before. We were told to go to the basement. We went because the foreman said please, and he never says please. The floor shook twice. Nothing fell. Lights flickered. Phones buzzed. Then nothing. When we came up, the sky looked normal. People drove home. Then the river was full of dead fish, like someone dumped a bag. The radio said to boil water. We tried to buy bleach, and it was gone. That night, there was a glow to the south that didn't move like dawn. It just sat there. You tell me what that is. I tell Samir I don't know what it is, but I know what it means. It means something big, burned in a way that keeps its own light. It means the map between here and there may be hard to cross for a while. I ask Samir if he's got water in clean bottles. He says not much. I tell him to fill a tub if the water still runs, and to use a clean shirt as a filter before boiling. He thanks me like I gave him a miracle. I wish I had more than old tricks and a voice. Line 2 is a woman with a sound like wind in her phone. This is Claire from Rockland. The coast is strange. The harbor is quiet. No working engines, just a few old boats that can take a hand crank. There's a man on a sailboat anchored where the ferry used to pull in, and he keeps turning his head like he can hear a song no one else hears. The lighthouse people haven't come out. At night, the water is black, and some hours, it seems to glow in lines like roads. I don't know if it's in my eyes. My brother is sick. He was on Route 1 near Bath when that flash came. He says he stared at the bright like an idiot. Now he throws up, and he needs rest, and the clinic gives him aspirin. He says his teeth feel loose. Is that a thing? It is a thing. I don't say the word on air. I tell Claire to put her brother in the back room and keep it dark, to hold his hand and talk soft, to give small sips of clean water with a pinch of salt and sugar if she can spare it, to keep a good barrier if he sweats or bleeds or gets sores, to wash her own hands like the act is prayer. I tell her to cover his mouth with a clean cloth if he coughs, and to bag what she can't wash. She says she can't get to a hospital. She says there are men at the Rotary in bright vests, telling drivers to turn around, and nobody asks why because the vests look like permission. I thank her for calling. I write Bath roadblock vests on my paper. The station is a patchwork now. The big tower up the hill is temperamental, so I borrow wire from an auto shop, hung on nails and bent coat hangers. The generator is stubborn, so I bribe it with oil, and kind words and a little heat from a hairdryer, stolen from a hotel room that used to smell like new lemon. I've got 3 car batteries in a row, and a hand crank set that could charge a phone if you're patient and don't mind the ache in your forearms. Once an hour, the FM goes hollow like a tin can, and I switch to AM. Shortwave at night, when the sky feels big enough to carry me to Vermont and Nova Scotia, and a man in Ohio who calls himself Bucket, because he once put a kitchen bucket over his radio to block a neighbor's baby monitor. Bucket says he heard a dead city speak. He said at 3:17 a.m. he caught a UHF channel from far south, maybe DC, maybe Norfolk, with a list of zone codes and a voice repeating Alpha Clear, Bravo Dark, Charlie Moving, Delta Hold, and then it went flat. Bucket records what he hears on tape. He says tape won't betray him like a hard drive might. I've heard a lot of theories, some small and neat, some loud and big. Here are the ones that come up again and again from the people who wear practical hats. 1. Strikes were limited in number, but not gentle. Enough to blind, not to erase. 2. Spoofed alerts and false flags are in the air to make us chase our tails. Messages that look right and smell wrong. 3. Critical places were hit along the coast and the center, so that food and fuel would back up far away. It's a body shot, not a headshot. 4. There's a second thing on the way that is not fire. Maybe an economic net, maybe a cyber shove, maybe a set of small cuts that make the larger ones bleed longer. 5. Some people want you to panic buy, and some want you to walk to a center with your ID and your hands up. It's your town. You decide who gets to know your name. If a man with a clipboard can't say his own name twice without looking at his friend, keep walking. I don't sleep much. When I do, I dream I'm taking a station ID break, and when I come back, the studio door is open to a field full of cars with their doors open and no one inside them. I wake because something jumped in the wall. A mouse, I hope. The water in the thermos tastes like metal. The coffee tastes like old pennies and it doesn't bother me anymore. My hands shake when the calls stack. My voice shakes when a caller says the name of a city, and the line sneezes and cuts out, and the name never gets to finish the trip. If you're writing this down for neighbors who don't have a working radio, here's what I want them to know right now, at this hour. First, stay inside today if you can. If you must go out, make the trip short. Cover your mouth and eyes if the wind picks up dust. If it rains, that's good. Rain pulls some bad out of the air. But don't dance in it, and don't drink it off the roof. Second, control your fire. Some neighborhoods are using wood stoves. Keep ash in a metal bin outside, not on a porch. Third, don't go where uniforms wave you in without telling you what waits inside. Ask questions. It is your right. Fourth, if you have more food than you need this week, and your neighbor has less, make a plan together. One person's hidden stash often turns into a tired secret that hungry people love to find. A planned share is safer than a forced one. Fifth, put a note inside your door that lists who lives in your home and any key meds. If you go, take it. If you can't speak, someone else can read it. I'm getting a note under the door from Eli, the janitor who decided he's my partner now. He has neat handwriting like a school teacher. He says, "Station generator oil low." Also, 3 men on Exchange Street with long guns, telling people to show IDs for curfew compliance. No badges, no city vests. Okay, if you're near Exchange Street, find another way. If those men are listening, I see you, and so does everyone else. This town doesn't belong to whoever got there first this morning. We've got another line if it holds. Caller, you're live. Name and city. This is Henry from Manchester, New Hampshire. The voice is tired, but not weak. I used to fix radios for the state police. I took apart more siren boxes than I can count. Saturday night, I heard a call on a frequency that's usually used for training, the kind where they say, "Pretend this is a flood." But this time they said, "Real world. Real world. Real world." They told cruisers to avoid the VA hospital perimeter. They said the outdoor decon tents were up, but nobody staffing them had the right training. Then I heard a pause and a sound like someone put a hand over a microphone. Then a new voice said, "Shut this channel down. Use landline only." Landline. In 2025. Like it's 1978. That means they're scared of ears in places they can't see. That means someone else can hear what they say without being invited. Henry, thanks for your years and your ears. Landlines scare fewer people, but carry fewer lies. If they're moving to wires, it means the air is heavy with teeth. That matches what Bucket said and what a tower friend in Kittery wrote on paper and sent by a kid on a bike. Assume they can see every blink your modem makes. If you are running a little mesh network on your block, good on you, but treat it like a rope in a river. Keep hold, but don't be shocked if something pulls. I keep finding myself staring at a map tacked to the back wall. Thick paper. 50 states. I keep circling places I've only seen in pictures. The shipyard at Kittery, the yard at Groton, the base at Minot, the Navy redoubt that isn't on any normal map but everyone local knows. I circle them because callers keep naming them without meaning to. My brother worked at... And then they cough and say, "The place with the long fence." A woman from outside Scranton said the sky turned white, and then nothing, and then a hum that held her dog in place, tail down and eyes wide. A man from Burlington, Vermont, said the lake looked like a gunmetal mirror, and his kid asked if monsters live under flat water. We've all got new fairy tales now. I don't want to scare you more than you already are, but I can't hold back the bad until it dries out and turns gentle. Last night, a local TV reporter came to the door here with 2 cameras on his shoulder straps and a bruise on his cheek. He used to look fresh and loud. He looked like a man who fell down the stairs and got up without swearing because there was a baby in the house. He said his station manager took an unmarked folder from a man with a stamped badge and told the reporters to use the words temporary and localized whenever they could. He said he argued, and then the lights went out for the 3rd time, and the manager said, "We can't fight the dark with no power." The reporter left. He's here now, asleep in a chair with his chin on his chest. I draped a coat over him. He has the coat like a small hill on him, and he still shivers now and then. Every time I take a breath for myself, I think of the first day again. I was pointing the cheap desk mic at my mouth and thinking about late fees and whether the vending machine upstairs ate quarters for sport. Then the alert header ran like a zipper across 4 stations at once, and the voice said, "Shelter. This is not a test," with an accent from nowhere. And then my phone showed texts that were clearly not from anyone I know that said, "Report to assigned location," but they didn't list a location, like a magic trick without a payoff. That's when I called my sister in Portland, and it rang, and then went to a robot that said, "All circuits are busy." I wondered how a robot can sound tired. We're going to hold the line open for a man who's signing his messages to me with a mark that looks like a lighthouse doodle. He's the one who got a look at a printout from a lab at UMaine. He said the lab tests he saw weren't water potability. They were swipe tests for alpha and beta. He said the numbers scared someone who doesn't scare easy. He said he thinks the prevailing winds are pushing a stretched finger of bad luck inland and then south, thin enough to miss one town, thick enough to sit heavy on the next. If you've got plastic or heavy drop cloth and tape, you know what to do with that on your window frames for the next 12 hours. If you don't, hang blankets and wet them from the cleanest water you have. It's not magic. It's just better than nothing. I need to say something to the men and women wearing uniforms, the real ones and the borrowed ones, and the ones that used to matter more than they do today. We are tired. You are tired. Some of you are heroes, and some of you are not ready for what is in front of you. If you are taking people's guns, say why. If you are taking people's names, say where those names will rest. If you are telling people to move, show them a map that is not a lie. If you are guarding a door to a shelter, explain why the woman with the baby can't come in if the man with the vape pen can. If the answers are bad, say, "We don't know," and stand there with us while we not know together. I keep my eye on the battery gauge. It's a little red needle that dances near empty, and then remembers its job and claws back to the left. The needle is a small, brave thing. Eli walks in and leaves me a mug of water with a slice of lemon in it. Where did he get a lemon? He just shrugs. He's the kind of man who makes things appear because no one told him he couldn't. He says there was a small convoy down Harlow Street. 3 pickups, no plates, 2 men in each, tarps over the beds. The lead truck had a light bar you can buy online for a few $100s. Not cops, not National Guard. The leader wore a hat with a yellow patch that looked like a snake. I know the patch. I won't give them a free ad here. Before the lines go quiet, one more call. Name and city. Teresa, from Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Her breath is thin but steady. My dad is a machinist. He still works with lathes that fight back. He came home with cuts on his fingers and a look like he forgot how to make a joke. He said the plant is running for the first time in a year, and he said they are turning out parts they don't normally make. He won't say for what, because he made them sign a paper. He says the drawings say critical tolerances, and the metal is harder than they usually need, and the order came with a rush that felt like a hand on the back of his neck. He asked me where he should hide Mom's heart pills. He never asks for help. I told him the freezer, wrapped in a sock, back left corner. He said thank you and then asked if I think we should go to my aunt's in New York. I said no. I think New York is a hungry mouth right now. Teresa, you gave him the right answer. Big cities right now are a set of stacked problems with sharp edges. If you're hearing me in a tower block with 6 broken elevators, make friends fast with the strongest legs and the people with the best knees. Write a list of who needs what and how often. Tape it near the stairwell. If you have a loud voice, you are a lifeline. If you have a quiet voice, you are a steady hand. If someone knocks and says they're from a resource council you never heard of, ask who their mother is. It's amazing how fast a liar forgets his mother's name. I'm going to take 30 seconds to rub my eyes and sip what's left in this mug. While I do, write this down. We're moving to a split schedule. I'll be on air top of every hour for 20, then switch to shortwave for those who can't catch FM, then back here. If the relay dies, the backup AM will chirp once, and then you'll hear me on a thinner line. If you need to leave a message because your place is on fire or your kid is sick, put your address and the nearest large sign on the note and tuck it under the station door. Eli reads every note like it's from his brother. Also, and this matters, if you're a teacher, even if your school is dark, write a plan for the kids on your street. Quiet games that don't burn calories. Hand math. Reading aloud. You are more powerful than any canned message on any dead television set. Kids who can count and breathe slow are a kind of medicine. The last thing before the next block. I can't tell you it will get better today. I can say that today will end, and some of us will still be here tomorrow, and we will know more than we know right now. I am scared. I am tired. I am more angry than I thought I could be at men who make this kind of chart and call it a plan. But I also saw a kid hand a stranger a granola bar this morning, and I watched a neighbor light a stove for someone who'd never used one. And I felt a hand on my shoulder that didn't ask for anything. That's the rope we hold. You're listening to Colin Ward, Bangor, Maine, 88.7 FM, fallback 8:20 AM, night carry 7.490 shortwave. If your radio dies, pass the word with your feet. If your feet are tired, write on your door in big letters what you need and what you can share. The world is smaller now and closer. I'll be back in a few minutes. If the line drops, I'll climb it again. If you picked me up again, that means the switch didn't burn out. Good. It's now 7:03 AM, still Monday. The wind shifted a little. It's pushing from the south now, weak but steady, and the sky above Bangor is a flat lid that doesn't want to move. I can feel the air pressing against the stairwell like it's holding its breath. FM is holding. AM is clean on 820 kilohertz. Shortwave will be better after sunset, but if your set can pull 7.490 megahertz in daylight, you're a miracle worker. Eli says the generator has one more day of oil if we're careful. Careful means quiet between blocks, lights off in the hall, no space heaters, and a prayer for the small rubber hose that keeps a tired pump honest. I promised you I'd tell you how it started for me in a way that makes sense. Not the first siren. That was for show. The first real thing was a tone on the NOAA radio that played in the break room upstairs. It ran the header for Penobscot County, nothing odd, and then it dropped half a word and spat out a code I didn't know. I wrote it on a napkin. ZCZC-PEP-99. I've never seen that. I called a friend who used to work at the state EOC in Augusta. He said the EAS tables got new entries Friday night. He said there were codes that aren't in any public manual, and he said half the county boxes didn't update because their admin password is still taped under a desk somewhere. He laughed without meaning it. An hour later, his phone went dead. I haven't heard him since. About that time, the power company's map online showed outages like freckles. Then the map stopped loading at all. Trucks rolled anyway. I saw 2 line crews at State and Harlow, both with tired faces, both with coffee cups that looked like they were borrowed from the same kitchen. The crews stared up at dead lights and shrugged in a careful way, like the poles might hear them. The men have families in these streets, and yet the radio told them to send calls back into a hole. I got a copy of that directive later. It said, Do not promise restoration times. Refer inquiries to Regional Information Manager. If you are the Regional Information Manager and you're listening, you've got a pile of promises buried under your chair, and they will crawl out when the lights come on again. The next clear marker. Traffic cameras went blind on the turnpike and never came back. That's when the first roadblocks sprouted, not big ones. Pick up sideways, orange cones that appeared out of thin air. Sawhorses from a town garage that hasn't been open on a Monday since before winter. Some roadblocks have real cops. Some have kids who found vests in a shed. Look for the small things. Boots all the same or not. Radios on the same shoulder or not. The way they hold themselves when a car with a baby seat rolls up. Real training doesn't stare at a baby like it's a bomb. Real training doesn't put a finger on a trigger when a grandmother asks for Main Street. I picked up a whisper from an air guard tech through a line that should have been dead. He said the big birds were told to keep to lanes that don't exist in public maps. He said a tanker made a long oval north of the county line for nearly an hour, then punched west like it remembered something important. He said an old shelter on paper that used to be a myth in Orono had lights on at 2 a.m. If you're near Orono, and you see a glow where there hasn't been a glow since your grandfather saw it during drills, know this. Someone with a key turned the key. Someone with a list told someone else to line up by height and wait for a second list. If they don't let in the pharmacy tech but they let in the accountant, ask them who thinks numbers can restart a heart. Let's take a line. If it drops, I'll try to pull you back. Name and city. Gabe, out of Brewer. He sounds like he's talking into the crook of his arm. I manage a warehouse. Yesterday, we got an alert to hold outgoing freight and not to accept incoming without a signature from Regional Logistics Authority. We don't have one of those. 30 minutes later, a man shows up with a paper badge and says he's that. The badge looked printed at home. He wanted the pallets with medical labels. We asked for an order number. He said the number was operational. When we stalled, 2 other men came in and asked if we had families and if we like sleeping in our own beds. We gave them 3 pallets. I kept one back, buried under lawn furniture and cat litter. I don't know if that makes me a thief or someone saving his neighbors. It makes you someone who chose the hard road. Write on the side of that secret pallet what's inside and how to use it in words a kid could read. Share it with the clinic that's really just a room with a cot and a nurse who didn't go home. And if the paper badge comes back, ask for his boss's boss and watch his eyes while he invents a name. Another call, if the wire holds. Go ahead. Name's Ruth, from Caribou. The line wobbles and then smooths. I'm old enough to have ducked under desks for drills. I never thought it would matter. 2 nights ago, the sky did a quick wrong dawn in the north. Not big, like a match in a dark kitchen. The next morning, my neighbor's Geiger counter chirped but didn't scream. He said the numbers don't stay steady. They jump and fall like a heart. He taped up his windows and told me to do the same. I did, but I still smell something like hot stone when the wind presses the house. I keep a list of who on my road takes what pills. I knock on doors every 3 hours. Some doors don't open anymore. I write the names anyway. Ruth, I'm writing your name now, and the road you're on, and a star next to knocks every 3 hours. What you're doing is the spine of this place. Keep your list in a bag by the door. If you have 2 copies, give one to the kid with the good bike and the big lungs. Have him run it to the church basement or the firehouse. If the firehouse door is shut with a lock you haven't seen before, tape it to the window and put a stone against it. Someone with a key will see the paper and will choose to be human or not. I have a slip from a friend at the university. He says the lab measured dust on Monday morning on the roof, and it looked like normal dirt until they set it in a dish and pointed a counter at it. He says alpha shows if you get close. He says beta nips when it wants your attention. He says gamma is the stuff that laughs at walls. His numbers weren't nightmare numbers, but he said the pattern looked like fingers dragging across the map, not a blanket, streaks. If you've been outside for long on the wrong hours, wash your hair, then wash the tub, then rest. You can't scrub the whole world, but you can make your small circle safer. Someone slid another note under the door. It's from a cop I trust who asked me not to say his name on air anymore. He says the state issued a curfew at 9 p.m. last night through a text that half the county never got. He says his department didn't have gas for the cruisers until a private company showed up with a tanker and a fresh set of rules printed on glossy paper. He says the rules make exceptions for certain neighborhoods. He says those neighborhoods have friends in Augusta. He says if you're out after 9 for a good reason, walk in pairs, carry a flashlight, and keep your hands visible. He says his chief hates that he has to say it that way. I say to my friend, "Thank you, and I'm sorry you're carrying weight you didn't ask for." All right, the rumor that keeps chewing at everyone's brain. Is this it? Is this the big one that ends names we grew up saying like prayers? I don't have an answer you can carve in stone. I have a set of smaller answers that will help you get to sunset. Look at your water first, then heat, then food, then meds, then neighbors. In that order. If you have a well and a manual pump, you are king for a day. If you have a gas stove that clicks without a spark, use a match but crack the window and keep your head back. If you have canned food with no opener, teach your kids how to rub the lid edge on concrete until it glows dull and lifts with a spoon. If you have insulin in a fridge that is going warm, your priority is a cooler, a basement corner, or a friend with a generator. They are willing to run 3 hours on, 3 hours off. If you are alone, write a big X in your front window with tape, and then write a note beside it that says, "I am inside. I need to be checked at 2 p.m. Humans are more likely to help when they know when and how. Insider theories, because I promised them, and because ignoring them won't make them less sharp. 1. Staged restraint. The opening hits were aimed to blind and disrupt, but not to level every city, because someone wanted a bargaining table to still exist on week 2. 2. Quiet second wave, not fire, policy, debt calls, currency games, ports frozen by software keys. 3. Internal fracture. Someone inside our house likes the light off and the front door cracked because it makes their friends in dark coats more important. 4. Forward basing by rail. I have 2 separate reports of heavy flats moving at night without the usual clatter, loaded with things under wraps that aren't tractors. 5. Coastal test. The glow lines Claire and others saw across the water could be bloom from burned metals and weird plankton, but it could also be something military, testing the way the sea carries heat or signal under stress. 6. Last resort doctrine. This is the one I hate. It says, if the lights stay off long enough, someone with a chest full of ribbons will decide a bigger punch is cleaner than a long ache. If you are that person, and you somehow hear my voice, I am telling you plain. The ache is human, but the punch is forever. We're getting a lot of shortwave checks from west of here, carried on the mid-morning skip, which is odd, but I'll take it. A voice out of Utica says a convoy with foreign plates rolled through at dawn with a police escort. Foreign plates on heavy trailers, heading south. If that's you in the escort, blink your lights twice next time you pass a farmhouse. Let them know you saw the dog in the yard and the kid on the porch, and you're still one of us. A man calling himself Kettle on CB19 says he's outside Worcester with a flatbed full of bottled water and no fuel to get any farther. He's trading cases for diesel at a ratio that would have made sense only in a bad dream last month. If you're a farmer with a tank and a shed, and you can spare 50 gallons without putting your spring at risk, that truck can be the difference between a clinic working until Wednesday or not. Agree on the handover in daylight. Put 3 people in the work. 1 to pump, 1 to watch the road, 1 to write the names. Names matter. In 2 weeks, when someone says, "We never got help," you'll be able to say, "Linda brought it at noon and her hands were shaking, but she stood straight." That's how we remember who we are. A lot of you asked for numbers. You want hard counts on hits, dead, damaged, missing. I only share what I can hold up to the light. Here's what I will say. A Coast Guard petty officer called from a payphone in Portland and left a message on our old mailbox that somehow still works. He said they were told to treat the harbor like a bowl with a thin film over it. He said small boats were told to stay put unless they were moving medical supplies or food, and even then to put a tarp over the bow. He said a cutter that went out Sunday came back with paint that looked blistered near the waterline. He said no one wants to say, "What did that?" Okay, that's a number without digits, but it's still a number. Here's another. A hospital 2 hours south of here reported 37 walk-ins with nausea and headache in a single morning, most of them after a long wait at a roadblock or standing in line outside a community center with a sign that said, "Information." If that's you and your gut feels like it's trying to fold, get horizontal in the quietest room you have, a room with interior walls if possible. Don't chase miracle cures. Don't swallow iodine from your cabinet unless there's a doctor looking at you, and even then, ask them twice. Mostly, it's rest, water, small food when your stomach lets you, and time. Keep some ice in a bag wrapped in a towel and rest it on your forehead. If you have a thermometer, write down your temps every few hours. A notebook can save you from guessing wrong when your head is full of bees. I'm staring at the clock again. 7:19 a.m. The little red hand is steadier now. Maybe it understands its role. Mine is to hold this mic and say things that are true, even if they're small. Like this. I saw 3 kids on Center Street pick up trash yesterday and sort it into piles, not because anyone told them to, but because they wanted one corner to look normal. One kid had a shirt with a cartoon bear on it. He held up a plastic bottle like a trophy. A car rolled by without plates, and they froze, then went right back to sorting. Courage looks like that now. Small bodies doing simple work. We've got a patchy line to the south. Caller, you're on. Name and city. It's Mark, Brooklyn. The accent is New York, rubbed down by a hard night. I'm on the 4th floor. Elevators died Friday. We're running stairs for Mrs. Alvarez because she can't. The bodega on the corner has a list, and we're doing ration cards. The cops came by and said they can't stay long. Last night, we saw a glow across the river, but not like you think. It was low and mean, and it didn't move. My cousin said, it's a substation burning slow. Also, there was a message on the city loudspeaker, but it skipped every 10th word like a DJ. It said something about designated centers and registration and temporary. Everyone looked at everyone else and no one moved. We're staying put. One more thing. My buddy swears he heard a military band at noon yesterday. A recording. The kind they play on holidays. It made my skin crawl. Mark, you're doing the right work. Stairs, lists, ration cards, eyes on each other. If anyone pushes you toward a center with a lot of forms and not a lot of cots, ask to see the plan on paper. A real plan has names, room counts, and a way to keep heat and air moving. A fake plan has big words and a logo. Do not walk your old ones or your very young ones into a logo. There's a rumor about martial law. Some places have it in ink. Some places have it in muscle. Maine has a patchwork. So does the rest of the map. Here's my rule. Any law that ignores the mother with a baby at the front of the line is a bad law. Any order that turns off radios first is not about safety. Any curfew that can't explain itself is a wish, not a rule. You are not wrong to ask questions. You are not wrong to say no to a stranger who calls himself authority. You are not wrong to gather at noon on your street and talk it through. This isn't rebellion. It's town meeting with less coffee and more coats. We keep hearing about the West being a day or two behind us in the bad. If you're in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and your lights still hold, don't waste that gift. If your local station can carry me, take my checklists and read them between songs. If you have diesel, get it into the right tanks today. If you have a working print shop with a generator, make flyers. Water station here, 2 to 4 p.m., with an arrow. If you have a church with a basement, open the doors at set hours and post a sign saying, warm room. Even if it's 10 degrees warmer than outside, 10 degrees is a small miracle to someone who's been shaking for 2 days. A tech out of a TV station in Boston texted me from a number that used to be on business cards. He said the feed coming from the National Center is on a loop that edits out crowd shots if they show signs that say, "Where is the help?" He said the loop has splice points every 40 seconds, and if you watch the same clip 3 times, you can see the same woman in the same red hat cross the same street again. He said his boss told him to stop pointing it out. He sent me a still frame. I can't show you, but I can tell you the woman's red hat looks like a lighthouse in a storm. If you're that woman and somehow you hear this, you've become proof the loop is a lie. We're at 7:27 a.m. The generator coughs in the hall like an old man clearing his throat. Eli holds up 3 fingers, which means 3 minutes before we switch to AM, only to save a bit of fuel and keep the coil cool. Before we do, one last thing for the hour. A list of simple steps you can hand to a neighbor without a radio. Write this. Water first. 2 liters per person per day. If you can't count liters, fill the biggest pot you have and don't touch it unless you have to. Boil if you have a doubt. Food that doesn't need heat. Peanut butter, crackers, canned beans, tuna. Don't open what you can't finish today. Heat. Close off rooms. Sleep in one room. Hang blankets over doors. If you have a tent, pitch it inside for sleeping. If you have to burn wood, burn dry wood only. Crack a window to keep air moving. Light. Candles are pretty. They also start fires. Put them in a bowl of water, or better yet, use a flashlight. 1 light in a hallway beats 5 in every room. Medicine. Split doses if you must with your doctor's advice, which you probably don't have, so make a doctor on your block. Pick the person with the steadiest hands. Give them the medication list for your house. Waste, buckets, bags, bleach. Tie tight. Keep outside in a bin or pit. Hand washing saves lives more than any speech I can make. News. 1 person listens, then tells the others. Don't all crowd the radio. The radio is a friend with small lungs. People. Check your block. Learn names. Make a map. You don't have to like everyone to keep them alive. That's the list. Tape it to a door. We'll add to it as we learn more. I'm tired. You're tired. But tired people still move their hands, and that's what saves days like this. All right, AM only for a bit. If FM cuts out, don't panic. It's me, saving the coil. I'll switch to the thin wire, and you'll hear me like I'm talking through a tin can on a string. I'll be back on FM at the top of the next hour if the generator keeps its promise and the hose doesn't split. If you have a note, slide it under the door. If you have a small miracle, tell the person next to you. It carries faster that way. You're still with Colin Ward, Bangor, Maine. 88.7 FM when we can, 8:20 AM when we must, 7.490 megahertz when the sky opens. Hold your kids. Hold your temper. Hold your place in line. I'll climb back up this line again in a few minutes. It's 8:01 AM now. The light creeping in through the cracks of this building doesn't look like morning light anymore. It's pale and cold, like someone forgot to color it in. The kind of light that makes dust float instead of fall. I can see my breath again, even though we're supposed to be past frost season. Eli says the temperature dropped 5 degrees in the last hour, no wind chill. The sky's probably holding something thick above us. I can't smell the sea anymore. It's just metal and quiet. If you're tuning in for the first time, this is Colin Ward. You're catching what's left of 88.7 FM Bangor, what's left of a world that can still hear itself think. I don't know if it's day 7 or 8 since the flashes. Every clock tells a different story. My phone died 3 days ago. My watch ticks, but doesn't count minutes right. Sometimes the second hand just stops and waits for me to look away. The last verified contact I had outside Maine was from a trucker named Leland near Portsmouth. He said he was heading north because the southern roads were wrong. I asked what that meant. He said there were checkpoints that didn't look official, no uniforms, just men with paper badges and high-end radios. They weren't stealing. They were recording. License plates, names, cargo types. He said when he passed a certain point, his GPS drew a black square instead of a route. Then it froze. If you're driving, if you still have gas, do not trust your map apps. They've been looping false data since Friday. Use paper. If you don't have paper, follow rivers. Water doesn't lie. This next part's for the people up north near the border, Fort Kent, Madawaska, Van Buren. There's been talk of military movement on the Canadian side. Small convoys, unmarked transports. Some locals say it's humanitarian, others say it's containment. Whatever it is, keep your distance. Don't crowd them. Yesterday, a caller named Diane from Presque Isle said she saw drones moving low, like a string of red fireflies, she said. Not ours, maybe not anyone's. They didn't make sound. They just hovered over the old airfield, then shot up so fast her camera couldn't follow. She said her radio buzzed right after. Every station, even the dead ones, played a half-second burst of static at the same time. That wasn't random. There are people listening to us in ways we can't understand yet. I want to read something that was left on our doorstep this morning. It's written in blue pen on the back of a church bulletin. We have water. 2 barrels, 1 clean, 1 filter. 5th Street, behind the laundromat. Knock twice, then once. Say cold coffee. Don't bring more than 2 people. No children after dark. We can't risk the sound. Whoever you are, thank you. Whoever finds them, go careful. Don't crowd. Don't take more than you need. If you find another note like this, copy it down word for word and pin it somewhere public. Telephone poles, fences, bus stops. No fake ones. Don't play God. People are hanging by threads made of strangers' handwriting right now. I've been picking up chatter from an old emergency frequency, 163.275 megahertz. Used to be Federal Response Coordination. Now it's broken pieces of words, phrases like East Corridor Fallback, Containment Perimeter, Civilian Filtration. No names, no voices, just the kind of clipped tone that sounds like men talking over maps. If you have a ham rig, try scanning between 163 and 165. I think there's someone relaying orders out of Burlington or farther west. If you catch anything clear, record it. Don't transmit back. Not yet. The silence from Washington is louder than any explosion could ever be. The president hasn't spoken in 4 days. The emergency feed that used to loop official updates now just says, "Please remain sheltered and await instruction." That phrase is the new national anthem. Theories are breeding like flies in a jar. Some think we launched first and lost faster than anyone thought possible. Some think a command chain broke mid-signal, left the world guessing who still has the button. And then there's the quiet theory, the one insiders whisper about when they think the mic's off. That it wasn't an all-out exchange, that what hit us wasn't just bombs, but code, targeted blackouts, weaponized EMPs tuned to fry comms, not bodies. A war fought on invisible wires that snapped everything built on them. If that's true, then the worst part isn't over. It's still happening. One unplugged city at a time. Let's go to a call. Line 2, if you're still there, go ahead. Colin, this is Andy from Augusta. I don't know if this helps, but I work at a data center, or what's left of it. We were told to shut down all connections after the alerts came through. But we didn't lose power right away. Something else happened. All the servers started pinging the same address. Not ours, not the client's. Something outside the range. The traffic was clean, like a perfect heartbeat every second. We pulled the plugs, but the packets kept showing up. The cables weren't even connected anymore. I think the machines were talking to themselves. I pause. Ask him what he means. He says the logs looked like Morse code. I ask if he saved them. I tried. The drives wiped clean before I could eject them. And now, when I plug them into anything else, they hum. Just a little. Like they're alive. I don't know what to say to Andy. I thank him. Then I write on my pad. Machines humming. No power. Persistent signal. I'm not saying the war is over. I'm saying maybe it changed shape. Eli just handed me a Polaroid he found taped to the stairwell door. It's black and white. Grainy. Looks like a skyline, but it's warped, like heat rising off asphalt. Scrawled underneath, Boston Harbor, 0400 hours. No ships, just the sound of glass breaking underwater. If you're in Boston, if you can hear me somehow, please call in. I need to know what's left. The air is changing again. My ears pop like the pressure's wrong. Maybe another front moving in, or something worse. I keep thinking about that humming Andy mentioned. When the power grid died, something else woke up. We used to believe silence meant safety. But what if silence is the system learning to listen? It's 8:36 a.m. now. I'm going to switch over to AM in 2 minutes to keep the line warm through noon. Before I do, here's what we know, not what we fear. The eastern seaboard above New Jersey is still dark. The Midwest has intermittent power and scattered broadcasts. The Pacific coast is off-grid, but breathing. Small radio relays in Oregon and Washington have been confirmed. The Great Lakes are glowing faintly at night. No explanation yet. The satellites we had eyes on are now unresponsive. The word unresponsive means a lot more than it used to. I keep thinking about that first night. The way people ran toward the windows instead of away. The way the sky pulsed once, like it was taking a photo of us all. And how quiet it got afterward. No sirens, no planes, no arguments. Just the hum of a world forgetting its own name. If you're still alive, you're part of the transmission now. You are the network. I'll switch over to 8:20 a.m. in a few seconds. Keep listening for the click and the short drop before the static clears. Don't lose the frequency. You're still tuned to Colin Ward. Bangor, Maine. 88.7 FM, while it still breathes. If you hear silence for longer than a minute, it means we've changed channels, not that we've stopped. Stay with me. It's 9:02 a.m. now. The light outside has turned into a gray film that eats color. The buildings look like they were rubbed with charcoal. You can't tell where the sky ends or the smoke begins. The static in my headset keeps flicking in and out. It's faint, like someone whispering through sand. Eli says the signal meter hasn't moved in 10 minutes, but I can still hear breathing through the gaps, the soft hum of power lines that shouldn't be alive anymore. If you can still pick me up, this is Colin Ward, broadcasting out of Bangor, Maine. Whatever's left of the power grid is coughing again, but we'll keep pushing as long as the generator can bleed another drop. I've just received a copy of a message printed from one of the last shortwave relays still active between here and Vermont. It's dated 6 hours ago. It reads, "To all stations east of the Hudson, radiation spikes reported in clusters around abandoned substations. Do not approach glowing debris. Avoid rainfall. Avoid fog. Maintain sealed interiors for minimum 48 hours. That's the first official warning we've had that admits the sky might be poisoned. Not on every block, not yet, but enough that you can't trust the weather anymore." A call came through the backup line just before the hour, a voice trembling, young. "This is Aaron. I'm in Portland. I think I'm the last one in my building. The roof garden's gone brown overnight. The birds don't land anymore. The air smells like a burnt battery. I heard humming underground last night. Metal humming. Like the pipes were talking. I asked if he still had power. He said yes, but only in bursts, like a heartbeat skipping. Then he said the outlets were hot to the touch. I told him to cut the main line if he could. He laughed, small and dry. Said, "What if that's the only thing keeping the dark out?" I didn't know how to answer him. Aaron, if you're still listening, unplug everything that hums. The dark isn't what's killing us. It's what's watching for a way in. For the rest of you, here's the pattern we've been able to trace through the static. The coasts lit first, then the silence crawled inland. Now the interference is spreading from underground. Some of the techs think it's transformer feedback. Others think it's signal bleed from bunkered installations that never got the shutdown order. But I've been hearing another theory from men who still have clearance badges hanging around their necks, tarnished, but real. They say the enemy didn't just target cities, they targeted nodes, the places where information touches steel. Radio hubs, undersea cables, microwave towers, all those invisible threads we built the modern world on. They think what we're hearing now isn't echo. It's residue. A network that's alive but mindless, running loops of command packets that no one's there to receive. A machine ghost. If that's true, then every hum, every flicker of static you hear between stations could be the sound of a dead civilization trying to finish a sentence. Eli just came in with a note scrawled in pencil. Gunfire on Union Street. 2 bursts. Faded quick. He says it sounded like warning shots. Maybe a looter, maybe a soldier, maybe both. We don't have cops anymore, just people deciding they're in charge until someone stronger disagrees. The smart ones stay quiet. The scared ones shout orders into empty rooms. If you're in town, listen carefully before you open your door. Footsteps tell you everything. Trained boots land steady, scared feet slap. If it's steady, hide. If it's sloppy, you can reason with it. A woman just left a message on the repeater from Ellsworth. She says she saw something in the sky last night. It wasn't a plane. It was too slow. It glowed green, then red, then blinked out. 10 minutes later, the radio stations all cut at once. She wants to know if that was a flare or worse. I can't tell her. But if it was green to red, it might have been decaying fuel, what's left of a re-entry. Or it might have been a satellite losing its belly. Or maybe it wasn't ours at all. Keep your eyes down at night. The stars aren't where they used to be. It's strange how the mind edits fear into routine. You start to count the noises that still mean life. The drip of a pipe. The tick of a clock that doesn't care. Your own breath when the power cuts and you can hear the blood in your ears. I've been awake for 36 hours. I keep thinking of the first morning after the flashes. The roads were empty except for a school bus parked sideways near the bridge. Doors open, seats torn, the smell of diesel sweet and sick. Someone had written on the back window with a finger in the ash, "Go back inside." I ignored it. I walked 2 blocks to this station and turned the mic on. I've been talking ever since. For those still organized enough to write things down, Penobscot River level is dropping. The fog carries static. Stay indoors when it thickens. Military frequency 46.30 megahertz repeats. Code Amber. That means temporary evacuation failure. In plain words, the shelters are full or gone. We have a signal report from the west. A low band burst out of Albany, repeating 3 words. Project Phosphor Active. I've seen that name before in files I shouldn't have seen. It was a continuity plan. Something about emergency illumination satellites. If they've gone active, that means someone, somewhere, still has a finger on the switch. But that same activation could mean fallback ordnance. If you see a white line moving across the sky faster than a jet, do not follow it. Get underground. I'm going to read you something personal now, because maybe that's what keeps us human. It's from my sister, before the lines died. If the lights go out, don't chase the horizon, Colin. Stay small. Stay useful. People remember the voices that told them how to breathe. I didn't understand her then. I do now. It's 9:46 a.m. The hum outside is louder. It's not just wires anymore. It's the air itself shaking, like a power line under tension. I think something big is moving through the atmosphere. The static pulse matches a pattern. Every 11 seconds, a spike, then fade. If you're near a radio that can record, do it. Compare the timing. 11 seconds apart. If that syncs everywhere, we're looking at a global signal, not local noise. That would mean something still speaks above us. If anyone out there still has the ability to triangulate, try mapping it. Send coordinates through any open ham channel. Code it like this. Ward pattern 11 plus lat plus long. We'll compile later if later still exists. One more call before the power stumbles again. Go ahead. Colin, this is Hannah from Burlington. I'm underground with 6 others in a parking garage. We hear the hum too, but it's inside now. The cars vibrate even with the engines off. One of the men has a pacemaker. It's going crazy. Please tell me this stops. Hannah, It might not stop, but it will pass. Whatever's making that field moves like a tide. Stay under concrete. Keep distance from metal walls. And if anyone feels lightheaded, lie flat and breathe through cloth. If the hum gets into your bones, hum back. It helps balance the pressure. I don't know why, but it does. She thanked me before the line cracked apart. If this is the end, it's not the kind with fire and screaming like the movies. It's slow and cold and strangely polite. The world dimming the lights without a word. We're past the age of explosions. We're in the age of fading. You're still with Colin Ward, Bangor, Maine, 88.7 FM, or whatever ghost frequency can still carry me. The hour's almost up. If you can still hear, repeat after me. Not out loud, just in your head. You are still here. You can still listen. That means the world hasn't finished yet. I'll be back after the next cycle, if the generator keeps coughing. Stay in the dark, but stay awake.